What is happening, guys? How are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And wouldn't you believe it, there happens to be more rumors out there about a Nintendo Switch Mini. Yes, the story that will never die is the Nintendo Switch Mini, or the Pro, some kind of new hardware from Nintendo. It's been a hot topic for a long time, and every time I make a video, I feel like the next time there's going to be news, it's going to be because Nintendo actually confirms the darn thing or confirms that it doesn't exist. If they just gave us an answer one way or another. And this is a topic that honestly I initially wasn't going to cover. I saw a couple of videos and stories popping up about it. New Switch Mini and it's going to be crazy and here's more details. And I was like, man, here we go again. But then when I actually saw where this was coming from, it felt a lot more interesting and more relevant and did feel like something I felt I should talk about. This specific story and details actually comes from Forbes. And I was pretty relieved when I saw it came from Forbes, to tell you the truth, because at first when I saw this stuff about a powerful Switch Mini, I was like, oh, here we go, some other dumb, stupid Reddit post where everyone's taking it as fact and running with it. And hey, to be fair, plenty of stories that come from, unreliable sources like Reddit or whatnot, I've definitely touched on before, always with the caveat that it's coming from this kind of source, and it might not be true, but let's discuss it like it could be, because that's why I like to talk about rumors, even though I know a lot of people out there hate that. But when I saw this is coming from Forbes, it felt a little bit more legitimate. It's still not fact, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this is fact now just because, oh my god, the almighty Forbes has talked about it. But there is a little bit more credibility that comes along with the story when it comes from an outlet like that. So I'm just going to put that out there, and that's why I felt comfortable talking about it. So what's interesting is the article in question, which I will link below so you can read the full article. The article in question that brings up these details about a Switch Mini and it being really powerful and whatnot is in relation to the Google Stadia. So that was the unique thing. This was actually about the Google Stadia and that whole service and how it would make sense on the Nintendo Switch, and how this person who writes this article basically feels or knows that a Switch Mini is coming, and also knows it to be pretty powerful and pretty capable, which is the interesting thing here. So before I get too much into this, let me actually read some of what this article states that actually relates to this Switch Mini. The new mini Nintendo Switch will take advantage of 2 generations of die shrinks to its NVIDIA Tegra processor to deliver 1080p mobile gaming to a broader audience. By joining the Joy-Cons to the main body of the Switch, Nintendo will squeeze out the expensive and sophisticated wireless Joy-Cons and create a mobile-first Switch platform. The die shrink of the NVIDIA Tegra processor will provide better battery life and a meaningful upgrade to a 1080p display and graphics in mobile mode. The new mini Switch and an upgraded standard Switch are poised to address a broader market and capitalize on their growing software and user base. So that's the essence of what this article is saying, and it's interesting because the way this person actually talks about it in this article, they make it sound like it's a foregone conclusion, like they almost already know that this thing exists, or these things. I mean, that's the thing, is this both talks about a Switch Mini and still talks about another Switch, because it says here the new mini Switch and an upgraded standard Switch are poised to address a broader market. So it's like, it's very crazy. And so the gist of this is basically stating that, yeah, the Switch Mini exists, and it's also going to be more powerful and more capable than the current Switch, which is a mind-blowing concept and not anything that anyone was considering, because we'd all been considering the Switch Pro concept to be a completely separate device. And this sounds like it's taking the concept of the Pro, but also including it into the Switch Mini to the point where they would almost be the same device. And so we've basically been taking 2 ideas and shoving it into one product, which becomes very interesting and very intriguing, even to me, as somebody who said he didn't want anything like this. But again, like I just said, this also references an upgraded regular Switch too, so if there's any truth to any of this, what does that mean? So here's the thing. You guys know me. I'm not a tech spec guru. I don't desire it to be. I don't know this stuff. And so, some of the details this talks about a die cast shrinking something or whatever. I don't know what that means. The die shrink. I don't know what that means to do that. But what I do like about this article is that he talks about what it basically results in. I don't know what die shrink is. I don't understand the Tegra processor, this and that. I don't know any of that stuff. But he does say that doing this activity of die shrink creates an upgrade to the battery life and also makes it possible for the Switch screen to be 1080p. And that's crazy. I don't care about the tech specs, but I do care about the results in the end product. And so I'm glad that he says what the end product would be. Improving the battery life has long been something that people have wanted for the Switch. It is one of the few things that I think does justify a new model of a Switch, because I've also said that I don't necessarily think Nintendo needs to make new models of the Switch, and it's why, for a while, I was hesitant to believe this stuff. I have obviously since started to believe this more and more as more discussions come out about it. So when I hear that they might be, changing the battery life, it's like, yep, that makes sense. Most people want that. I would like that, so that's a reason to upgrade the Switch. The 1080p screen thing is crazy. It is very, very crazy. And kind of makes you wonder if they would also make the Switch Mini like more expensive, going from a 720 capable screen to a 1080 capable screen. Obviously, that's going to cost a lot more as far as the components of the machine. But you'd have to think that if they really are making a Switch Mini, that it would likely be a cheaper device. So it's weird to kind of put those two ideas together and really know what they're going to do. I would ultimately expect, regardless of the resolution of the screen, I would expect the Switch Mini, if it's real, to sell for less money. Maybe $200, $250 or so. If they hit a $200 price point, that would be massive. Oh my gosh, they would sell a lot, because going from $300 to $250, yeah, that's a decent saving, and it basically is a free price of a game. But going $100 cheaper to $200, $199, that's massive. I mean, the marketing and the sales they would get from that would be pretty huge. So he also talks about, Joy-Cons that don't detach. I think that's very interesting. Most people expect that to be the case. It's part of the reason why a Switch Mini is less interesting to me, because a Switch where the Joy-Cons don't come off, I don't really care for. I don't use the Joy-Cons that often, but I would like to believe that eventually some games from Nintendo will come out that do require them in a meaningful way. I hope that Metroid Prime 4 does that, if in fact Metroid Prime 4 releases on the current Switch and not only the next generation console. I would like to see a game like that, or maybe Breath of the Wild 2, the next Mario game, to use the Joy-Cons in a real way, the way Mario Odyssey did, because I liked playing where you're using the Joy-Cons to throw Cappy. I thought that was really great. So it's a little bit strange for me to figure out how I feel about Joy-Cons that don't detach. The big thing I've talked about, even my last video I brought this up, is whether or not this thing could be played on your TV or not. And obviously this sounds like a device that is supposed to be mobile first, and I totally get that. It's a Switch Mini, the Joy-Cons don't come off, it's supposed to be cheaper. It's, in making a better display, it's probably because they expect most people to play it portably. But I refuse to believe Nintendo will make a Switch device that won't be able to be played on your TV. Even if it just requires plugging in an HDMI to USB-C or whatever that power is, that cable, they could make a cable that could plug into a TV, or they could make a different kind of dock, or for all we know, there might be a way for it to fit onto the regular dock. I mean, that's not impossible. So that's the thing I find most interesting. The closest to wanting to buy a Switch Mini I could get is if it could also be played on a TV. If the Switch Mini couldn't be played on a TV, I would definitely have no interest, and I think a lot of people would have less interest in it, to be fair. But again, I don't expect that. No matter what this thing is, even if it's mobile first, it's still going to be playable on the TV. I firmly believe that. Now, we have to talk about the idea of upgraded power to these things, because that's a huge part of this conversation. When we hear about them changing the capability of a Switch Mini to the point that it could support a 1080p screen, that's pretty huge. That could mean that this could be boasting enough power to improve the performance of games across the board, especially when it's docked. Because again, I believe it will be able to be docked or played on a TV. So if this thing can be docked, and it can play 1080p while it's in your hand, imagine if it can go 1080p and full 60 frames per second and even better picture quality and graphics quality when it's docked. And that means that a game like a Doom, for example, or even like a Doom Eternal, could actually run at 60 frames per second, whereas currently it can't on the current Switch. Even a game I'm playing right now, like Bloodstained, which is a complete mess with tons of bugs and a really poor frame rate, maybe this would get this to be able to run more in line with what the PS4 version is, simply because this Switch Mini seems to be boasting some sort of extra power on top of the standard Switch. And that is something that I don't think any of us expected when considering the concept of a mini. I mean, I only thought of a mini as something that's pulling away features and functions and capabilities from the Switch, hence why I wasn't interested. But if the only thing it pulls away is the abilities to use the Joy-Con, but then it also adds better battery life, better resolution, and some new power, or the ability to play in 60 frames per second, that's a bit of a game changer, and suddenly I might be willing to sacrifice the detachable Joy-Cons for the ability to have better performing games. But, as I've already referenced in this video, he still talks about an upgraded standard Switch. So this same device, with detachable Joy-Cons, he's still doubling down, saying that Pro version of the Switch seems to exist. And let's be real, at the end of the day, that's the version of a new Switch that most of us are going to be interested in, and most of us are curious about. Show me what a Switch Pro, whatever name Nintendo gives it, is actually capable of. What will this thing be? Will it look different? Will it play and feel different? Will it do significantly enough different things? I've long said that I don't believe a Switch Pro would be Nintendo's true answer to a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Scarlet. I really think Nintendo's planning a next-gen machine within the year or two after those consoles launch. And so the idea of a Switch Pro, as I've said, to me, is only to get a couple of more legs out of the life of the Switch at the, at the tail end of the life than to be anything else. And it could also provide some pretty significant gameplay experiences as well. We can't forget that. Maybe a Switch Pro makes possible a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 or the Resident Evil 2 remake or Apex Legends. I don't know, plenty of other games that right now we're not seeing come to the Switch. Maybe even like a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. If a Switch Pro exists, and if it makes possible games like that, even though I hate the idea of Nintendo segregating their audience and segregating the library, it does become appealing, and I do get excited about thinking about that. If I know a Switch Pro is coming before a game like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order comes out, and I know it's going to play a game like Fallen Order and Resident Evil 2 Remake, I might hold out. If the wait isn't too long, I might hold out and get that upgraded Switch so that I can play those games also portably on my Switch. That is crazy exciting, and you would have to think that also would come with a 1080p screen and a lot more power under the hood. Not a significant amount, but enough to maybe change some of the games that are possible on the machine. Yeah, that's exciting, man. I think it would be more about bringing the Switch up to par with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One than to doing anything regarding PlayStation 5 and Xbox Scarlet. And that's not totally devoid of value. Even though it's less interesting, I still think that there's a good reason for Nintendo to do that. So, like I said, I've gone on a roller coaster with these things. I've believed them. I haven't believed them. I've liked them. I've disliked them. I'm at the point where I'm really starting to believe in both of these devices, and I'm starting to see the value and even be kind of interested myself. So at the end of the day, what does this all mean? Should we believe this? Should we be excited for it? I don't even know, man. I just feel like every other week I'm going to be making a video about a new rumor about these things until eventually we either see them or Nintendo denies them. We're all pretty familiar with the thing that happened a couple of weeks ago where Nintendo basically confirmed new Switch hardware without doing it at one of their investors' meetings. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm really just tending to believe in these things, but I'm just ready, man. I'm sick of making videos that are speculative and about rumors. I mean, okay, I say I'm sick of it. I do enjoy it, obviously, and you guys enjoy it. I know you guys are interested in it, and I do like talking about this stuff. But I'm sick of it in the sense that I just want to be over the hump of just knowing these things are real, and I want to make a video talking with you guys about the facts. Not rumors, not Reddit posts, and not even Forbes articles. As much credibility as I think is here, I want something more than this. And I know you guys have to want that too, right? We want to just know if this damn product is real or not. So, I don't know what to tell you other than everything I talked about in this video, just kind of shooting the shit with you about this new news story and this Forbes article and the fact that it's pretty interesting, man. A Switch Mini actually adding power and capability is great news. That is way more exciting and nothing that we expected. So hopefully there's some truth to this, and hopefully we get some answers sometime soon, at least before the end of the damn year. Nintendo, come on, give us something. So that being said, that's what I have to say about this crazy story. What do you think? Are you excited? Are you not excited? Do you believe it? Do you not believe it? Share your thoughts below, and with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Ro2R, and I'll catch you next time on another video.